Galileo Galilei by Shania, Rianna, and Jessica.
Galileo Galilei, the father of modern science, played a major role in the scientific revolution during the Renaissance. The Italian astronomer provided many scientific insights that set a path for future discoveries. He investigated the laws of motion and made improvements on the telescope, which helped further the understanding of everything around him. Both of these things led him to question the idea that everything revolved around the Earth. In 1610, Galileo was the first astronomer to discover the 4 moons of Jupiter. He also studied the Moon, Venus, and Jupiter. Galileo was born in Pisa, Italy on February 15, 1564. He passed away in Arcetri, Italy on January 8, 1642. Childhood and education. His parents were Vincenzo Galilei, a lutenist, musician, and music theorist, and Giulia Almonati, the daughter of Cosimo Almonati. Galileo was the firstborn out of 6 kids. His education started when Galileo and his family moved to Florence in 1574. He attended the Camaldolese monastery in Vallombrosa. In 1583, Galileo studied medicine at the University of Pisa. He became really fascinated with many subjects, particularly physics and mathematics. Sadly, Galileo had to leave the university in 1583 due to financial problems. After leaving, Galileo decided to study mathematics by supporting himself with minor teaching jobs. While studying, Galileo wrote The Little Balance, which gave him a small amount of fame as well as a teaching post at the University of Pisa. While teaching, Galileo received a lot of criticism from his students at the university, and in 1592, the university chose not to renew their contract with him. Luckily, Galileo found another job at the University of Padua. He remained teaching there for 18 years. In the meantime, he met Marina Gamba in the year 1600. Galileo and Marina ended up having 3 children out of wedlock. Galileo's first child, Virginia, was born on August 13, 1600, and Livia, his second daughter, was born in 1601. His third child, a son named Vincenzo Gamba, was born in 1606. Galileo never got around to marrying Marina due to his financial problems as well as social standing.
Accomplishments. The first telescope was not created by Galileo, like many people may think. Rather, Galileo used it as a base to create a more advanced version. With his improved telescope, he became the first person to study the stars in detail. By studying the stars, he discovered many things about the planets and the moon. He proved the heliocentric model through his discovery of the phases of Venus. Of all his telescope discoveries, he is most known for the discovery of the 4 largest moons of Jupiter, which are now known as Galileo's moons. By supporting and advocating the heliocentric model, he became a key role in the scientific revolution. His strong contribution to science makes him recognized as the father of modern science to many. Issues and impacts. Galileo spent most of his time thinking about and studying the stars. He is well known for his discoveries and observations of the stars. He started the idea of experimenting rather than relying on belief and the authority of the Church. He believed in proving thoughts through mathematics as well as experiments. Galileo improved the basics of the telescope, allowing other scientists to study the stars more in depth. Being one of the first scientists to defy the Church and rely on science and math, Galileo influenced others to do the same. This made him one of the most important people in the scientific Renaissance.
Famous works. Some of his most famous works are Sidereal Messenger, Letters on Sunspots, Letters to the Grand Duchess Christina, The Assayer, Dialogue on the 2 Chief Systems of the World, and Discourse on the 2 New Sciences. Sidereal Messenger, or Starry Messenger, is a short pamphlet published in 1610 that contained Galileo's observation of the moon, stars, Venus, the moons of Jupiter, and the rings of Saturn. In the pamphlet, he identified the Milky Way as a collection of stars and saw that the moon had a ragged surface instead of a flat one. Letters on Sunspots is a pamphlet containing 3 letters Galileo wrote, which was published in 1613. In the three letters, Galileo identified and observed the markings on the sun as sunspots. This confirmed that the sun rotates monthly as the positions of the spots move. In his third letter, he made a clear statement of support for Copernicus, the astronomer who made the model that placed the sun in the center of the universe rather than the Earth. In 1615, Letters to the Grand Duchess Christina was published. In this letter, Galileo attempted to show the criticism of Copernicus would be wrong. The Essay, published in 1623, attacked theories based on Aristotle's authority. It promoted experimenting and mathematically forming scientific ideas instead. Dialogue on the Two Chief Systems of the World was an Italian-language book published in 1632. It compared the Copernican system with the traditional Ptolemaic system. In this, he also put forward the basic principle of relativity. Discourse on the Two New Sciences was Galileo's last book and was published in 1638. It summarized his work on the two sciences known as kinematics and strength of materials. Fun facts. He was dyslexic and became blind in the last years of his life because he was observing the sun for long periods of time. The middle finger from his right hand has been displayed in the Museo Galileo in Florence, Italy. William Shakespeare and Galileo were born in the same year. Queen has made a part of their song Bohemian Rhapsody about Galileo, and the Indigo Girls also made a song about Galileo. That song has become the Indigo Girls' most famous song. Galileo did not believe in Kepler's theory, the theory that the moon was the cause of the tides. A play called Life of Galileo first appeared on Broadway in 1947, and the latest revival of the play was in 2012. Due to controversy over theology, astronomy, and philosophy, the Roman Inquisition put Galileo on trial in 1633 and found him vehemently suspect of heresy. He was sentenced to indefinite imprisonment and was kept under house arrest until his death in 1642. Two of the children were girls whom Galileo never allowed to marry out of the fear he would have to pay a hefty dowry, so they were sent to a convent and ended up becoming nuns. After 400 years, Galileo's telescope still survives and is available at the Museo Galileo in Italy. The museum has two telescopes and objective lenses built by Galileo himself. When Galileo died in 1642, the Vatican refused to allow his remains to be buried alongside family members in Florence's Santa Croce Basilica. Instead, his bones were relegated to a side chapel. A century later, however, his reputation had improved, and his remains, minus a few fingers, were transferred to their present location beneath a grand tomb in the basilica's main chapel. Michelangelo rests nearby. Galileo is credited with making the first working thermometer, even though it wasn't very accurate. Galileo began the revolution of scientists who trusted science rather than the church. Their defiance created the understanding of the world we have today. His impact on science is enormous, and without him, science and our understanding of the world would be different and wrong.
I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Galileo, Galileo.